Up next on Art Rocks, the Baton Rouge native and former Broadway star reaching glittering new heights in the jewelry business.
One of the girls in my dressing room was making a pair of earrings. I said, oh, that looks like fun. She showed me how, and then I got the bug. And the first pieces that I made were for my mom as a Christmas gift.
And the world's smallest church is right here in Louisiana. That's all coming up next on Art Rocks.
Like the impulse that drives an artist's creativity, Georgia Pacific's 850 Louisiana employees are driven to produce quality paper products for your home and business. Georgia Pacific is proud to support LPB and Art Rocks.
And by Lamar Advertising Company, proud to support the arts and Art Rocks. Headquartered in Baton Rouge, Lamar's 461 Louisiana employees have been helping brands and businesses reach their customers creatively for over 100 years.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello and thank you for joining us for Art Rocks with me, James Fox Smith, publisher of Country Roads magazine. We're beginning in Baton Rouge today with a local who left to take Broadway by storm, then returned to her hometown to establish her own jewelry business. Annamaria Andricain explains how she transitioned from wowing New York audiences to building a reputation for exquisite jewelry in precious metal and ceramics.
I grew up in Baton Rouge, and I was a dancer here and did things at the little theater.
You think love is just a silly game.
I decided to be an actress, and I went to the University of Cincinnati Conservatory of Music right after high school and moved from there to New York City and got real lucky, and I graduated on a Thursday and on Sunday had my first job offer. So I toured Europe with Evita, the United States. I did the 20th anniversary tour as Ava in Evita, and we got to play the Sanger in New Orleans. And my first Broadway show was Beauty and the Beast. I went on to do many others, Les Misérables, South Pacific, many things at Lincoln Center. It was a wonderful career. And jewelry was my backstage hobby. So when I was in Beauty and the Beast, one of the girls in my dressing room was making a pair of earrings. And so I said, oh, that looks like fun. She showed me how, and then I got the bug. So I started walking all the gemstone warehouses in New York and collecting gems and reading everything I could get my hands on about making jewelry. And the first pieces that I made were for my mom as a Christmas gift. I was buying clasps and I couldn't find the things that I wanted to use. And so then I started trying to figure out, well, how can I make these pieces? I think because I lived in New York, I was missing home, and I was always making things. All the art in my apartment was old oak trees from Louisiana. I would go to Central Park and take photographs of the trees and nature. And so I was looking for beautiful leaf clasps and I couldn't find anything. So I tried traditional metalsmithing, and the finish I was getting was really flat. My husband had gotten a job offer here in Baton Rouge. We commuted for almost 2 years. On one of my trips to visit him, I took a class at the Baton Rouge Bead Company in metal clay to see if I would like it, to see if I thought I could use it for this application. And that was it. I ended up going to Houston and getting certified in metal clay so I could learn all the rules and then break them. That is when I started creating almost all of my metal work. It starts with metal clay. Fine silver, sterling silver, copper, bronze, all starts with a powder of metal in an organic binder. When I was in Beauty and the Beast, there was a transit strike about 4 days before Christmas. And at that point, everybody in the cast knew that I was making jewelry. And of course, 4 days before Christmas, none of the men had done any Christmas shopping. The guys in the cast were like, don't you make jewelry? Can you make something For my sister, can you make something for my mom? Well, without knowing anything about pricing or how to go about this, I was interviewing each person. Well, what color eyes do they have? What do they look like? You know, tell me a little bit more about them. And in that 4-day period, I realized, whoa, this could be a really big business, because I literally had everyone buying from me. And it's not only that, it was the feedback I got from after they gave the gift. I loved the connection with the people. I loved hearing about their stories. Hopefully that piece will be handed down through their family for generations, because I really try to make things that are going to last. Shortly after this experience, I wanted to learn more about business, because I didn't know anything about running a business. I knew how to run an acting business, but not a jewelry business. So I started meeting with a mentor at SCORE, and they sort of helped me set up the business. SCORE is sponsored by the Small Business Administration, and you go in there and you meet with the mentor, and they sort of help you with wherever you are in business, give you the information you need. We happened to be at our favorite Cuban restaurant in New York called Havana Central, and we were brainstorming names, and we looked up at the sign and my husband said, Jewel of Havana. And I was like, oh, that's perfect, because I wanted to tie it to my mom somehow. That's how we got the name Jewel of Havana and jewelofhavana.com. The only connection to Havana is my mom. The jewelry is inspired by some of my life events. It's inspired by stories my customers will tell me. I do a lot of nature-inspired pieces. If I'm looking for inspiration, I will walk in my garden in the back. I use actual fresh leaves to press into the clay. So a lot of things will start as something I notice in the yard, like a tiny detail or something that'll spark an idea, and then I'll riff off of that. This piece right here, it starts off with a leaf. It's a coralberry leaf from my yard, and I will make a mold of it and then press the clay into it. These are 2 separate leaves, and then I will attach them together. And then once they're metal, I can solder on the components that go into finishing the piece. But it starts as clay, so you have to work a little larger than you want the finished piece and account for the shrinkage rate for each type of metal. Once I have it exactly how I want it, it goes into a jewelry kiln. And the jewelry kiln fires this. For fine silver, it's 1650, so it's almost to the point of melting, but it'll become this ring here. For rings, there are armatures you can use to stop it from passing the size that you want. Sometimes I fire them flat, and then once they're metal, I will hammer them into shape. And other times I will form it on an armature or a mandrel and let it dry. Once it's dry clay, you can pull it off the mandrel and it's going to hold the shape. Some of the stones fire in place. Most of my stones I set after the fact, because the kiln, the stone has to be able to withstand the fire of the kiln. So diamonds can be fired in place, CZs, cubic zirconias can be fired in place. But most of my stones, I don't want to risk putting in the kiln, so I do the settings after the fact. So that's where the traditional metalsmithing comes into play. My stones come from all over the world, but I go to New York every year and go through the gemstone warehouses that I did at the very beginning. I also go to Houston, and there are warehouses there to go through. And then there are a lot of gem shows in New Orleans that I will go to. Probably my favorite collection to work on is the Secret Garden collection. It was a challenge I gave myself. I limited myself to 2 textures and 2 colors, and it had to be a geometric shape. And then I started sketching around the stones with those rules in place for the metal. The combinations of metals in my pieces, sometimes they are actually the metals, like copper and bronze. A lot of times I will incorporate with each other, but there are certain metals that won't stick to each other. So the way that I get that in my pieces is I use a patina. And I love the layers of the textures and how the pieces turned out. My other favorite collection is probably the Draped in Love collection. I had a breast cancer diagnosis about 3.5 years ago. And There were several survivors that sort of helped me through that. And I was looking for a way to thank them and wanted to design a piece of jewelry. Through treatment, when my husband would cover me with a sheet when I was resting, or my friends, when they were wheeling me to surgery, I kept seeing the shapes that I had drawn in the sheets, and I'm like, that is perfect. They are draping me in love, and I'm gonna make this collection to give to these people. I used copper because it is a healing metal, and then the gold mixed with it.
One of the best parts of my job is my dad travels with me to all my art shows and festivals, and the time we get to spend together is priceless.
Anna shares proceeds from her Draped in Love collection with the Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center in Baton Rouge, which again is where she got her treatment. If you're looking for opportunities to enjoy the visual and performing arts, Louisiana always delivers. So here's a list of some of the festivals, concerts and exhibits happening in weeks to come. To learn more about these and other events in Louisiana, pick up a copy of Country Roads magazine. Another resource, the Art Rocks website features every episode of the program, so just log on to lpb.org and follow the prompts. We're headed out west now to Nevada to follow the inspirational story of an artist who achieves extraordinary things despite the daily reality of life with cerebral palsy. You'd never know Kanna Fogle's challenges by looking at his artwork, though. In every piece, whatever the medium, graphic design, photography, painting, even puzzles for children, Fogle dazzles with technical flair and incredible attention to detail. Here's his story.
From painting to graphic design to photography, Kanna Fogle is an emerging artist who finds creative ways to express himself. With a paintbrush attached to a customized headset, he brings his paintings to life. The headset was originally meant as a head pointer for him to use on the computer when he was in the 4th grade. And over the years, his family began experimenting by taping pencils and other tools to the headset so he could draw, and eventually adapted it into what it is now, a means for him to bring his brushstrokes onto canvas. Kanna's cerebral palsy makes it difficult for him to speak. However, he feels that his art is how he communicates best with people, and that he is able to express himself through each stroke of his brush. One of his passions is to use his art to inform others that disabled people are just like anyone else and are capable of doing what they love. He uses his computer to create some of the background designs of his paintings and do other graphic design. A special device called the Sip and Puff substitutes the controls of the mouse and the keyboard. He inhales through a tube connected to his mouth via headset to perform a left click of the mouse, and a puff into the tube performs a right click. A camera on his computer tracks the center of his headset, and this allows him to control the pointer on the screen. Spencer Allen is Kanna's direct care provider and helps guide Kanna through his development as an artist.
Lately, Connor has been interested in painting portraits and he's working on a series of painting portraits of his family. Since we've been learning that design work in the computer program, he's begun incorporating the computer design into his paintings and pre-planning his paintings with backgrounds and making them more multidimensional.
To further demonstrate that people with disabilities can be self-sustaining, he sells his artwork and produces an annual calendar to raise money to help support himself and buy adaptive equipment. He is also partnering with Spencer Allen, his direct care provider, to grow Creative Potential, a company comprised of artists with disabilities who create learning-based wooden toys and puzzles for children.
It's a great feeling to have, and knowing that I can help kids.
Connor's parents always taught him that he can do anything that anybody else can, just maybe a little differently. And this remarkable artist shows us that in addition to his work, nothing in life can stop you with the right mindset.
Home again for this week's Louisiana Treasure. The Iberville parish town of Bayou Goula is home to what's often described as the world's smallest church. We went in search of the big story behind this tiniest of spiritual spaces.
As churches go, this one in Bayou Goula is one of the smallest in the world. Just a few hundred steps from the Mississippi River and just a few feet off LA Highway 405 rests the Madonna Chapel. And if you want to get inside anytime, just use the key. It's in the box to the right of the door. The box marked key.
Thank you. Anybody comes, they know it. They can go get the key, open it up, go in and say their prayers, light a candle, do anything they want, you see.
Mitzi Rapolo and husband AJ know every inch of this 9x9 church. Married over 50 years ago, they have been the caretakers of the chapel since 1989.
Well, to tell you the truth, she asked me, and she went and she had a little small operation done. And when she came back from that operation, when I went in the room to see her, she told me, I want to take care of that little church. I said, okay, we'll take care of it.
In 1902, an Italian farmer and his family lived on this land. It is said that when the eldest son of Anthony Goula became seriously ill, the father pledged a chapel to the Madonna if the boy recovered. He did recover, and the father kept his promise.
And he collected donations from the people that were farmers around here because he wasn't a well-off person.
No more than about 6 people can fit inside the Madonna Chapel at one time. The 21 statues and 2 rows of candles fill much of the room. A table on the left has a guest book. Do you get a lot of visitors?
Yes, many visitors. I had a girl from Russia. She was an exchange student that came and wrote me a beautiful note when she got back. So you never know who's going to stop by.
It's harder for AJ to get around these days, but to keep up with the upkeep, AJ has help.
Wouldn't have these fellas here that helped me. I couldn't do it because I got crippled now. I can't hardly walk. But I got some good help. I got 4 boys that's very dependable.
Those 4 boys are Jack, Calvin, Leo, and Pecan, a group of retired gentlemen from nearby Plaquemine. These 4 youngsters range in ages 75 to 81.
First thing we'll do to really make the yard look good, we'll edge, weed eat, and trim, and then cut the grass. And then if the fence needs washing, we'll wash it with Clorox, soap sud, and all, make it look good, and then we'll wash the bell off, and then we'll paint it. Nobody has a special job, honey. We all get together and help each other out.
There is another building on the chapel grounds. It's the storage shed, and it's bigger than the church. The shed holds 250 chairs, and they use all of them once a year for the Feast of the Assumption Mass, held every August 15th.
Yeah, I'm going to bring one over here, Cap. Who's going to clean all these chairs, Jack? You?
And these men have a great deal of devotion for AJ.
We'll come over here, my wife and I and Jack and them, we'll come over here whenever the grass needs to be cut and the church needs to be cleaned with Clorox, different things and all, the fence and everything. Whatever it takes, we come down here and do it for Mr. AJ.
We like it. We like it. It's a joy. It's a pleasure. It's one of our pleasures in life. We all get together with good friends, been friends all our life, and we just come down and work. We look forward to this. In fact, I wish we had a couple down to you.
The annual August Mass literally stops traffic in Bayou Goula. The descendants of the Goula family now live in Rockford, Illinois, but they frequently attend this yearly service. The family also rebuilt the steeple after Hurricane Gustav in 2008. And every year at 9 a.m. on August 15th, a church bell fills this peaceful Bayou countryside.
Sometime when they ring it at 9 o'clock, you know, a long time ago, most probably the people were on this land have a bunch of cattle back here. And when they would ring that bell, the cattle would come up here. Most probably they figured they had some food for them and all. So they would ring the bell so they'll come up here and they do some hooping and hollering. You ought to hear them.
I believe God is here all the time. And when we come down here, when we open that door there, it's reverence down here. We take our hats off. We don't go inside the building. Even though we're working, we take our hats off in reverence. You know, we do just like Jesus do, honor and respect Virgin Mary.
It's very important to me because I feel it's an honor. It's not too many people could say that they do this, you know. So I feel like it's special. And the Blessed Mother's been so good to us. The least I could do is to take care of this little church. The Blessed Mother sends us whatever we need without even discussing it with anybody. It's there when we need it.
This little church has left a big mark to so many people. For those seeking guidance or a quiet place for reflection. For those seeking gentle reminders to the lessons their forefathers learned over a century ago. This little chapel holds the key.
The Jewish Ensemble Theatre in West Bloomfield, Michigan, has been working to present socially conscious theatre for nearly 30 years. Their most recent production explores the relationship between a man with autism and the neighbour with whom he works to break down barriers.
I have a date coming in 10 minutes, you have 3.
To take what's very natural, you know, sort of getting to know somebody and a first-time interaction and what that looks like is often difficult for most people. And so to see this portrayed through the lens of autism is really what makes it striking.
27 years ago, these lovely ladies decided to create a professional theater that spoke to Judaism and created JET, and we've sort of become a theater of social conscience. And we try and deal with important issues.
Who are you?
Ever Montgomery from 4C. I mentioned that, but I know from teaching that repetition is helpful.
You're a teacher?
Typically, the sort of shows that the JET chooses to produce are generally character-driven, smaller pieces, and I don't know what an actor could ask for more than a great character and a great story.
Oh, I'm very lucky. These are wonderful actors. They're pros, and you couldn't ask for a nicer group of people to come in and know their stuff, be extremely prepared, smart questions, really put 100% into it, and most of all, you believe that they're the characters. They're real, they become them.
I couldn't teach you even if I wanted to, okay? I can lurch, I can wobble, but I can't dance.
This play is called Dancing Lessons. It follows 2 characters, Senga Quinn, who is a Broadway dancer and actress, and Ever Montgomery, who is a professor of geosciences at the New York Institute of Technology, who also has Asperger's. And they are each sort of dealing with their own issues as they meet.
So what kind of mandatory social event is this?
An award dinner, formal dress with dancing post-dessert.
The Jet Theater staff reached out to us and thought that we would make a good partner in terms of getting the message out. It's a great way to begin to increase our awareness generally, and then of course to bring attention to the special issues that come out of this type of a production.
I'm sure you're right, but it can't be slow. A fast song, the faster the better.
And why is that?
I don't like to be touched.
I think it's really accurate. I think the writer did a really nice job of that. Brian, who's such an amazing actor, does such a great job with the lack of eye contact, you know, and the difficulty with that, and the proximity to other people, and, you know, the physical touch, and a lot of that tactile and sensory issues are really made into something in this show which is very accurate. And the level of, you know, how literal he is in his thinking, and how that, you know, to a neurotypical person like Senga, that it doesn't make a lot of sense. There are no scores. Okay, it's about real life. It's feeling other people's emotions and seeing the world like they do.
There's just a context that's brought here that I think allows for such a better and sort of intimate understanding of some of the challenges.
I hope that the audience, after they leave this play, will understand Asperger's a little bit better in terms of that level of functioning on the spectrum. And I guess just that it's such a sweet and beautiful love story, and to see how people kind of evolve and change. I guess maybe if they leave feeling that, and maybe feeling a little, I don't know, it's a little heartwarming and hopeful.
I hope that when they leave the theater, they will have had a wonderful time and will have had some type of a catharsis, and also a realization of the fact that we're all humans and everybody has value, and that we should all care about one another.
There's a line in the play that my character ever has that I believe the line is, change equals courage. And I think that the story at its core is you're watching two people who are really facing a big decision. They're at a turning point in their lives, and they're both in their own way terrified of what it could mean to try and fail. The answer to your question can be found in the symmetry of this equation. Change equals courage. Nothing is possible without courage. Everything is possible with it. Thank you.
And that is that for this edition of Art Rocks. But remember, you can always find episodes of the show at lpb.org/artrocks. And if you can't get enough culture, Country Roads magazine makes a great resource for getting up close and personal with the visual and performing arts, close to home and all around the state. Until next week, I'm James Fox Smith, and thanks for watching.